It's a good question what the pace of efficiency is relative to the increase in demand. I mean, clearly our increase in computational demand is unsatiable. I mean, there doesn't look like there's any holding back of the demand. Right now, and probably for like the last 5 years, efficiency is kept up. I mean, from a combination of mechanisms. One is computational efficiency, Moore's law. The other one is virtualization and increasing the utilization. And the third one is the infrastructure, or the PUE. So basically what's happened in the recent past is our demand, growth in demand has pretty much equaled the efficiency gains. So we're pretty much level. That's probably going to hold true for the next few years. But then beyond that, say after 2020, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, there's a lot of people questioning whether Moore's law is going to continue. Clearly, you can't do better than a PUE of 1. So you know, as we improve our infrastructure, we're going to saturate that market. And similarly, on the virtualization side and the utilization side, you can't get more utilized than 100%. So as we increase our utilization, as we improve our data center efficiency, we're going to basically run out of those opportunities. Moore's law may be starting to deteriorate, so there could be some issues beyond 2020. As we lose that opportunity for energy efficiency to balance with the growth of computations, what's going to become more important is the interface between demand and supply. So things like the smart grid and microgrids, where a data center might become the focus of a microgrid, those are going to become much more important as we basically have saturated the market in the efficiency arena. It's sort of like demand response, but it goes way beyond that in that well, demand response is important, and the interface between the data center and the utility is important, but not only from the standpoint of reducing load, but then increasing the load when the utility wants you to. Fortunately, we have an industry that's moving towards redundancy in the network rather than redundancy in the data center. So our ability to move loads from one location to another location is increasing, and that's going to feed into the opportunity to work with our utility so that if they don't have the capacity to provide us the electricity, they can ask us and incentivize us to move to another location. Or conversely, if they have excess power, for example, if it's in the middle of the afternoon and they have excess renewable energy being produced, we can move a load from another location to that service utility area. Will we see a growth of less reliable data centers? And I think that they're not going to be any less reliable, but it's going to be redundancy in the network rather than redundancy in the data center. So we won't be spending huge amounts of money on redundant systems in the data center. Instead, we're going to have our data centers interconnected so that if one data center goes down, the load can move to another location. So that's called geo-redundancy or redundancy in the network. And that's going to be much more reliable than redundancy in the data center, because when you have redundancy in the data center, a natural disaster like, say, a flood, it doesn't matter how redundant your data center is, it's going to go down, or a terrorist activity, or any one of a number of problems that could occur. The redundancy in the networks is more robust because then you move the load to another data center. So the idea is you can build several data centers that you can move loads around, and that's going to be overall less expensive, both from a capital standpoint and an operating standpoint, to have really high redundancy within one single data center. I mean, certainly certain people are willing to pay a premium for renewable energy. I mean, I myself, I have my own solar system. I paid a premium for that, and it's something that I want to do. I mean, people ask me, how could you justify buying solar on your house? Well, I say my next door neighbor bought a Mercedes-Benz that cost more than my solar system, and the first year depreciation on that car was more than my solar system cost. So who asked them, how did they justify the cost of the Mercedes? I bought the solar because I wanted the solar. But in business, it's a different situation. In business, it typically is done on primarily a business decision. So, but we're seeing, at least in California, I think in most of the US, that renewables are beating conventional energy sources in terms of price. So we can have our cake and eat it too. We can be environmentally responsive, and we can have the lowest cost energy. But now back to your question of whether people will pay more. I know that in a previous conference, Digital Realty Trust had arranged for renewable power for their customers in Texas at a very small premium, and none of their customers took them up on that offer. But then I also understand that subsequently they went ahead and bought the renewable anyway, because it wasn't that much of an increment. So, you know, I think as long as the increment is very low, people might be willing to pay for it. There's going to be a few customers that would be willing to pay a significant, or somewhat more significant incremental cost. But in the business community, a lot of people are going to want to have both renewable energy and lower cost.
Excellent.
I should also mention that one of the benefits of renewable is it fixes the price. So, for example, if our electricity costs 10 cents a kilowatt now, we might be willing to agree to a contract to pay 12 cents a kilowatt hour for 10 years, knowing that in the 10th year we'll still be paying 12 cents a kilowatt. So knowing that the price is fixed, it's worth a premium irrespective of what the source of the power is. So renewable energy is sort of tapping that mentality as well, is that if you can fix the price over a long period of time, it makes a good business decision. What about DCD events? Well, I just got back from Shanghai, and while I was there, I attended the DCD conference there, and we rolled out our initiative to harmonize international standards, or open standards. So we're trying to bring together the OCP, the Open Compute Project, with the Scorpio project, which is the Chinese version. They're different. So we rolled out at DCD in Shanghai our effort to harmonize standards between China and the US, and then tomorrow at Data Center Dynamics we'll roll that out in the US market. So our partners are Tencent, Alibaba, and Baidu on the China side, and on the US side we have Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and Intel. And our objective in the first step is to develop a standard that we all agree on for a liquid-cooled rack specification. And the idea is that those companies that agree to it then would take it to their respective organizations, the OCP and the Scorpio project, and get them adopted at a broader level. The thinking is right now the Scorpio standards, which are open, and the OCP standards, which are open, are different. So it doesn't serve the international market well to have different open standards for different countries. So in an attempt to solve that problem, we've tackled one spec to start off with, and that will be the liquid-cooled rack. The point is that we were utilizing Data Center Dynamics as the platform to make the announcement for our activity, our effort. Because, for us, sort of representing and being funded by the US government, and trying to transform the market, our target market is Data Center Dynamics target market. So it's a very synergistic relationship where we can work with you to roll out programs and to educate the community on energy efficiency opportunities. So we really feel the partnership with Data Center Dynamics is valuable.